A very warm welcome to all the attendees. I am Manali Vyas, your host today for this webinar. Thank you all for joining us in this webinar on Great Place to Work, Learning from the Past to Create the Workplace of the Future. Becoming a great place to work is on everyone's mind. There are a lot of business reasons to become a great place to work. Attracting talent, retaining talent, and going beyond. How do we fulfill everyone's aspirations are some of the key reasons why organizations are focusing on this initiative. Great Place to Work Institute has recently released the top 100 companies list. Happy to share that some of our customers, Indegene, Aspire Systems, Bajaj Finance, are on the top 100 Great Place to Work companies. In this webinar, Captain Narayanan Shankar will take us through the journey of Great Place to Work. This webinar is jointly conducted by Synergita and Focal Point Coaching. Focal Point is a global coaching and training organization based in US. It has 250 management coaches around the world. It has been in Singapore for several years and focuses on expansion in Southeast Asia. Synergita is a cloud-based performance management and analytics software which helps you focus on employee performance, employee engagement, and employee development. Now, I would like to introduce you to the speakers for this session. The first presenter for today's session is Captain Narayanan Shankar. He's a certified executive and business coach and CEO at Vinsight Maritime. Shankar was a ship captain, held leadership positions in MNCs, and was a business consultant as well. Over the course of his career, Shankar has mentored people across cultures, races, and backgrounds. His mentees now hold leadership positions across the world and turn to him for professional advice for their companies and themselves. As a certified executive and business coach, Shankar focuses on bringing the best in people via flagship programs, for example, Perform at Your Best and Strategic and High Performance Leadership. These programs are powered by Tracy, one of the world's leading motivational speakers with millions of successful trainees. Over to you, Narayanan.
Pleasure to share some thoughts on this topic. This is very important over a lifespan of any professional career. The goal today is to leave you with some key concepts and ideas which you can readily implement irrespective of your role in the organization. Now, there are a few myths that surround the Great Place to Work framework. In just over 100 years, in the last 100 years, when work as we know it today started taking shape. And it doesn't have really a long history like agriculture, fishing, or the sector I spent a lot of time in, seafaring. I would like to ask you to close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself on a ship as a captain on a sea voyage for 50 days, leading a motley crew from across the world from rough backgrounds, without a telephone, internet, or even snail mail. How would you keep them motivated, productive, and above all, happy? We have done that. And that's where our starting position is. Now, top managers are those people who create an environment where peak performance takes place irrespective of the workplace itself. So that doesn't really matter which environment they are in. Today you see in Great Place to Work trends, the certificates you see across the world from the USA to India to the Middle East. Every country publishes a Great Place to Work framework and a list of companies which are in that. So as you can see, every major academic study over the last 3 days have shown that creating the right environment in a workplace rewards all stakeholders, the customers, the owners, the shareholders, the employees, and by extension, their families and the community. The effect is there for all to see. The workplace today is far different whether your company is in Bay Area, Dubai, Bandra, or Beijing. Companies and individuals have to adapt to fast-changing trends to attract and retain talent, as Manali said earlier. If you're still on that imaginary ship, the voyages are shorter, the crew much smaller in numbers, well educated, and almost everyone has access to internet, just as we all do. So, who cares? You heard of the 80-20 rule made famous by Pareto. The rule, when applied to companies, reveals that the top 20% of the companies make 80% of the profits in that industry, leaving the remaining 80% work very hard for the balance 20%. So it's no surprise that the top companies are where people feel terrific about themselves and their work. When the modern workplace came into being, they discovered what is known as the X factor. You can have a nice office, the best cafeteria, and so on, but it is the psychological X factor that causes some individuals and some companies to perform at consistently high levels. The key word here is consistency. It's not a one-off. In recent years, any survey on the subject would have the technology companies taking most of the top 10 slots. Does that mean that the other sectors are no longer a great place to work? Not at all. Not all tech companies are a great place to work, nor are the other sectors lagging behind. The top 10 companies or top companies around the world have known this for long and are consistently known to be a great place to work. You will find them across all sectors, like I said. Unilever, Procter & Gamble in retail, Exxon and Shell in energy, Maersk in shipping, etc. They're not very limited to large-size companies either. I consult for example, for two very small companies, one in tech and other in corporate services. Both have less than 20 employees, are located in rather run-down buildings, and not particularly well-paying as well. Yet the employees are highly motivated, and the overall atmosphere there is simply amazing. In one company, there is just a fish tank to keep them happy. What does it take to make a great place to work? By Robin Hartman, he says, "I love my job." That's what you don't often hear from most companies. No company has 100% satisfied employees. There are always going to be things to gripe about around the water cooler. Even those of us with the most satisfying careers generally look forward to the weekends. That's a fact. The best companies, however, generally do have certain things in common. The way they treat their employees, career progression, work-life balance, fun, humor, relaxation. These are not enemies of work, by the way, but it's allies. And more importantly, by communicating a shared purpose. Look around and study your environment. Are you surrounded by the kind of people you are or you would like to be? Do you find them to be disengaged, not engaged at all, or just doing something to get going and end of the day just go back sullenly? Or are they a rock star, always positive, always going around energizing other people? Who do you want to be? People perform best at work when they feel safe, secure, respected, valued, and appreciated by you and other people. We can now look at the methodologies on creating a high-trust environment of your own where peak performance takes place every day. Why the focus on high performance and high-trust environment? The building and sustaining of a high-trust environment is possibly the most important thing you can do in achieving the distinction of being a great place to work. If you go back in history, like I started off earlier with, agriculture has been the backbone of any economy for centuries. The farmland was the place of work. The farmer simply cleared the ground, sowed the seeds, watered the seedlings, watched the weather, took care of the animals, harvested the crops, and the result was binary: to reap a good harvest or starve. So every energy and the motivation was to make sure he had a good harvest. Similarly, you need, if you are a manager, you need to clear the ground and lay the foundation for the employees to perform and grow to their full potential. Your job is to create the environment where this kind of motivation takes place. Now, what is a leader's role in this? Can a leader motivate anybody today? You see, in my opinion, the manager cannot motivate anybody. You might be shocked to hear this, but it is true. The manager can only create conditions where motivations can take place. It is, to go back to the farmer example, it's like the farmer doesn't grow the crops. He creates the environment where the crops can grow. So here are some basic rules for creating a great place of work. First thing, people are motivated when they feel terrific about themselves. When they feel terrific inside, naturally they will do a great job. Now, what's the measure of a terrific? Feeling terrific inside. That's when people say this is a great place to work. You'll find the highest level of satisfaction in companies where people feel terrific and like to work there. They feel a sense of pride when they talk about their company to family, friends, clients, and others. They feel happy to go to work, when at work, and when they leave work and come home. So all motivation is self-motivation. People are motivated by who they are, what they want, and their goals and desires. Motivation comes from deep inside. Next, eliminate the demotivators. People are demotivated if the environment is not conducive to their own personality. So peak performance comes from eliminating the demotivators. It's such a simple thing. If you take away the things that demotivates people, then what is left is only things that motivate them. Now, we can stop for a couple of minutes and you can actually write down in the chat box what are the motivators in your organizations that you would like to see. I hope you had some interesting thoughts to share.
Narayanan, people started responding. Their responses are quite nice. Vanessa Wright says best motivator for her is friendly colleagues. Sonali says it's mentor. Sumanta Samadar says respect for all. Then G.I. Lim says food. Sridhar says challenging work profile and the team. Francis says right climate. Renu says respect. Hina says values. Rohini says flexible work timings. Sumanta says opportunity to do new things. Anshuman says culture. Ashwini says challenges. Francis says teamwork. Then Philip says recognition. Saugat Datta says timely salary. Santosh says values and management culture. Sandeep Pandey says continuous learning. Hina Sharma again says appreciation. Anupa says freedom to talk and act. Well, responses are
too many. I think,
Okay.
Shankar, you take forward.
Yeah, all right. And thanks, Manali, for the summation. It's interesting that each of you have something to talk about it, and that shows the passion that you have shown in your workplace. And a lot of them, you can actually group them into 3 different slots, if I may. And one is on the general culture of the organization, and some is related to how the organization actually treats an individual. And the third is what you would see as a future for yourself. And I will come back to this particular topic. And as we move forward, you will see that a great place to work has some of these things already built in, and how you can actually build those motivators in your workplace. Or you can at least engage your seniors to, come back and say how this can be developed in your organization. Let us move forward. Yeah. Now, in the discovery of the self concept is the greatest breakthrough in psychology over the last few decades. What does that mean? When I learned about the self concept and how it impacts behavior and performance, it transformed my life. Self concept is the way you think, you believe, you feel, and you see the world. It is the person you think you are inside. The self concept psychology explains behavior, performance, and attitude. There is a one-to-one relationship between the self-concept on the inside and everything you do on the outside. The foundation of self-concept psychology is contained in 3 psychological principles. The principle of what is called the principle of belief. Now, in all religions, philosophies, and metaphysics, they agree that your beliefs about yourself and the world largely determine everything that happens to you. Because you always deal with the world based on what you believe. Even if sometimes the beliefs are false, you will still deal with the world based on those beliefs. If someone told you it's going to rain today, and you believe them, you'll prepare for a wet and rainy day, and vice versa. The principle of belief says that whenever you believe something with feeling or emotion, it becomes your reality. There's little equation you all can use. Thought multiplied or times emotion is the reality. The more intensely you believe in something, the more you see the world consistent with it. The more emotional you are about your beliefs, the more strong you are in what you see, think, and do in that area. Self-concept psychology also explains your personality, your levels of enthusiasm, and your levels of motivation. If you have a positive self-concept, you're a positive person, and vice versa. And insecure self-concept leads to insecurity. If you have a secure self-concept, you will be positive and optimistic. This provides guidelines for building high-performance people. Because beliefs affect your attitudes, and attitudes determine behavior. If someone told you about this very interesting seminar today, and your belief is that this webinar is going to be interesting, your approach will be very different than if somebody forced you to listen to a lecture on a topic you don't quite relate to. So beliefs are really important, even if the beliefs are not based on accurate information. Now, the important thing is the self-limiting beliefs more than anything else that holds you back. A self-limiting belief is when you believe yourself to be limited in some way. You believe yourself to be not as intelligent, not as creative, or not as capable, or not as determined as others. Your self-limiting beliefs may even go back to your childhood. If you believe them to be true, even if they are no longer true, they hold you back. So the important thing to ask yourself is, what self-limiting belief might you have, and what if they are not true at all? What if you had unlimited potential to do anything, or have to do anything else? What if you could convey that to each person who works with you, that they have unlimited potential as well, and and they start to believe it. That's the key to unlocking the potential of other people. Now, that leads to principle of expectations. 70 to 80 years of research has shown how powerful expectations are. Because this rule says whenever you expect with confidence, whatever it is, it becomes your own self-fulfilling prophecy. If you expect something to happen in a particular way, you act as if it is going to happen, and the result is it often happens. Your expectations of other people, starting with your spouse, your children, your staff, largely determine how they behave. So the rule is to always expect the best of other people. Expect your children, for example, to be the very best, and expect your staff to be the very best. Always express positive expectations. Then, as we learned in your notes or your feedback, the principle of correspondence. This principle says your inner world determines your outer world. Your outer world simply mirrors back to you what you really are inside. So to change anything in the outer world, you have to work on your inner world, or changing the way you think and feel about on the inside. Now, how do you do that? Now let's talk about self-concept psychology, which is the key to understanding yourself and others. Your self-concept is based on your inner programming and forms and develops right from your infancy. It develops from nothing actually when you're born, and based on every experience you have had, positive and negative, especially in early childhood, when you're most susceptible to the development of your self-concept. If the surroundings were positive, supportive and loving, you will develop a positive self-concept. You will see yourself in a very positive way. If it was a very critical, demanding or non-supportive environment, you might grow up with a negative self-concept and feel insecure. Now here's the rule. You always behave on the outside consistent with your inner beliefs, your expectations and convictions of self-concept. The average person uses only 10% of his or her brain potential. You've heard this many times. And in fact, the Stanford Research Institute says it's only 2%. It doesn't matter. It's like having a supercomputer to do basic additions. So the idea is to unlock and unleash the untapped potential for individual and organization benefit. There is a direct correlation between your idea of self-concept and your effectiveness. So as your self-concept goes up, your effectiveness goes up. Not only do each one of us have a wholesome self-concept, we also have a sets of mini self-concepts. You have a self-concept of how good a parent you are, how good you're a child to your parents, how you drive, how you communicate, your personality, how creative you are, etc. You even have a self-concept about your memory. You take a person aside today and ask him or her how good is their memory. The person may say, you know what, my memory is very poor. I keep forgetting my keys, my wallet, etc. Actually, a memory expert can change that in a day. Memory is just a skill, like driving a car or riding a bicycle, or and you can actually dramatically increase your memory. The self-concept that the person had, that I don't have a good memory, suddenly turns to I have an incredible memory. So to improve the performance of people in your team, you have to improve their self-concept. Remember, there is a direct correlation between self-concept and level of performance. Your self-concept is composed of three critical elements. It's like three parts of a pie. The first of these elements is your self-ideal. If this is a perfect person that you would like to be sometime in the future, your self-ideal is composed of your goals, your aspirations, your hopes and dreams. It's composed of the virtues and values you admire in yourself and others. What we find is that top people have very clear self-concepts. One of the qualities of a leader knows exactly who he or she is. They know what they believe in, they know what they stand for, and they have a high, exciting vision of what is possible for them in the future. The very act of sitting people down, as we do in our coaching sessions, and help them to design the perfect person they would like to be in 3 to 5 years, changes their life completely. When a person has a clear future vision or ideal, their behavior in the present is very different. More and more they do things in the present that are consistent with the person they want to be sometime in the future. When as a manager, you tell your team how good they are, each of them starts thinking of themselves as being really, really excellent, and they start to do better at every part of their work. Now, the second part of the self-concept is your self-image. This is the way you think about yourself and see yourself on the inside. We say your self-image is your inner mirror. You always look into this mirror to see how well you should perform on the outside. If you go to a sales call or a call to a meeting, you quickly see in this mirror actually and decide how you want to present yourself and behave at this meeting. So all your improvement in your life begins with your improvement in your own mental picture of how you want to conduct yourself. Here's a marvelous thing. You can improve the performance of others by telling them they do a very good job or they did a very good job. And it causes them to form a mental picture of themselves doing a good job in the present and doing a good job in the future. Every single positive thing you say to another person affects their self-image in a positive way, improves how they think about themselves, and improves their performance. The third part is self-esteem. This actually changed my life completely. Your self-esteem is defined as how much you like yourself, how much you value yourself, how much you respect yourself. Self-esteem is determined by how much you consider yourself to be a valuable and a worthwhile human being. And what we have found is that you can raise your self-esteem by simply saying over and over again, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. Try it every day in the morning and see how it changes your life. And everything that you do causes other people to like themselves, raises their self-esteem as well. There's a direct correlation between your self-esteem, your personality, and your attitude. The more you like yourself, the happier you are. The more you like yourself, the more other people like you. And that's where the whole new revolution starts. Hence, there is a direct relation between self-esteem and performance. Now that we have learned the concepts, how do we release more of the potential inside each person? Now, I would like you to just think about the demotivators in your organization or in general. Please use the chat window and you can list some of those things.
Okay, here are the responses. Damini Tiwari says lack of appreciation. Amy Lim says favorism. Jijila TR says gossiping. Arvind says belittling. Mrinal Patne says culture. Anupama says a leader or management who does walk the talk. Santosh says no idea about the company's direction. Priyanka says lack of trust and biased approach. Hina says lengthy processes. Sridhar says disengaged members. Navya Patel says micromanagement. Francis says bottlenecks. Anshuman Mohanty says disrespect. Mayumi says do not take any feedback or appreciation as manager. DV Sharma says lack of fun. Okay, Narayanan, you can take forward.
Yes. Okay, thanks, Manali. And yes, again, a lot of these things that have been listed are not out of the norm. These happen in all different types of organization. And what we have discussed so far, we can look at the motivators that you can help with. And now I will go to the demotivators, which are probably slightly different from what is listed here. But it will all come together at the end. What we have learned is fear and doubt has been the greatest enemies of human happiness and performance at a workplace. Fear and doubt are what holds people back more than anything else. What we know is fear of any kind paralyzes performance. It causes people to stop thinking, and if there is more fear, they actually mentally, emotionally, and physically weak. And there is fear of any kind, people actually stop doing a good job. Fear depresses the personality, makes you feel inferior, and undermines their effectiveness. Fear stops you from doing good work and actually causes more mistakes to happen. Now, on the other hand, doubt causes you to sell yourself short. Abraham Maslow, the great psychologist, said the story of the human race is a story of people selling themselves short. Now, what does that mean? To that, he set a much too low standard for what we are really capable of doing. We set low standards for ourselves because we feel we just cannot do any better. So the self-confidence is lacking. We don't have the confidence to try things that we haven't done before or move out of your comfort zone. So fear and doubt put together are terrible obstacles in the workplace. Now, what are the types of fear? Of the fears, the fear of failure is the greatest single obstacle to success in adult life. The fear of failure is what holds us back, paralyzes us, and stops us from trying. In fact, it's not failure itself, as everybody has failed over and over again in life. You know, the most successful people have failed far more times than average. I have failed, and I'm sure many others would have some story about their own failures. The most successful people fail and fail and fail, but they fail forward. They learn from each mistake they make and do better the next time. So it's not failure that hurts you, but the fear of failure. It's the idea that you may fail that causes you not to take any action at all. So one of the questions we ask in goal setting is what goal or dream you would have set for yourself if you knew you could not fail. If you are guaranteed success in anything, small or large, short or medium term, what goals would you set for yourself if you have no fear of failure at all? Then people start to think, if I was guaranteed success, I would do this, I would do that, and then they realize that it's only fear that's holding them back. Fear is like an unconscious brake on your potential that causes you to hold back from really trying. The second major cluster of fears is around the fear of rejection. The fear of rejection from infancy holds us back more than you can imagine. The fear of rejection is also a fear of disapproval. Someone may not approve or like what I'm doing, or fear of ridicule or embarrassment. As you all know, the number one fear in the world is the fear of public speaking. It's not that people are afraid of speaking, but they are afraid of being embarrassed in front of other people. And the worst part of the fear of rejection is the fear of criticism. We're all very, very sensitive to criticism. And some people are so sensitive to criticism that they cannot do anything new or different without checking with lots of other people. Sometimes the fear of criticism causes them to hold themselves back all their lives. Now, we all have these fears to a greater or lesser degree. It's just part of us being human beings. All these fears just lie just below the surface of the personality of every person and can be very easily triggered by a glance, a look, a situation at work, a criticism, a nasty remark. Oh, then we will feel, oh my God, I made this mistake, or they disapprove of me. What will happen to me tomorrow? So what is the key to creating a high-trust environment, which we touched upon earlier? Eliminating fear. Edward Deming, who transformed quality management in the workplace, was asked this question: how do you create a high trust environment? And you know what the answer was? Drive out fear. Eliminate fear. Resolve to eliminate all kinds of fear in your workplace so nobody has any fear of anything. Now, how do you start? You resolve to eliminate criticism of all kinds in your vocabulary. And like somebody said, gossip as well. Criticism is like a cancer in any group of people, a home, family, business, or workplace. It's like a bomb, neutron bomb that goes off, that leaves the person standing but kills their personality. So one of the starting points of building a great place of work is to eliminate criticism of all kinds. Example of fear. Now, you can practice how do you eliminate fear. So if somebody is taking up space on their work, some people just put up some time so they can start facing their fears. So they just spend some time sitting around and saying, okay, I'm going to this meeting. This difficult client is coming up, and I really don't know how to handle this guy. So they actually visualize this situation and overcome their fears of meeting this difficult client. Write down those important tasks or decisions and information that they need, and then it helps them from becoming distracted by the unpleasant problem that might arise. Now, there is another example I can show you. Suppose you have a boss or a place where there is a lot of yelling and screaming and shouting. You can actually break that pattern. So I can give you an example where once when it happened, this lady just did something she had never done before. She calmly stood up during the meeting and left the room. The manager followed her out of the room and asked, why did she leave? She said that yelling has to stop and the two of them needed to have a conversation alone. A week later, they had a one-to-one, and this lady told the CEO how these rants made her feel. The CEO was surprised. She said, I never thought my behavior would be leading to such consequences. Two things happened. They cleared the air and the yelling stopped. Now, what happened to this lady? She reclaimed her self-respect by overcoming her fear, by actually facing her fear, standing up to the boss. And standing up more than to the boss, she was standing up for herself. Her self-image improved. Then what happens? The rest of the staff also notice this, and they also start behaving in a better fashion. Now, these things happen, and there are mistakes that happen in any organization. So the second way to drive out fear is to allow honest mistakes. Every year, many surveys of companies worldwide are carried, and hundreds and thousands of people are asked how they feel about their companies. And I'm sure many of you have been asked. The results are published, and they attract talent and just advertise themselves. One of the most important things people in companies say repeatedly each year is that I felt I could make a mistake without being criticized. I felt I could make an honest mistake and nobody would get mad at me or I would not be fired. That feeling that they can make an honest mistake and not be fired is really, really important. So even if people are making mistakes, your job is to keep smiling and realize that if nobody is making mistakes, nobody is trying anything new, learning or growing. Another thing you can do is to eliminate fear, is to encourage responsible risk-taking. What does that mean? If someone comes up with an idea, you say, give it a try. Allow ownership. Doesn't mean you spend $1 million, but just give it a try and see if it works. Like the Japanese Kaizen, this brings forth a river of improvements or suggestions. Each person who comes up with an idea or suggestion is encouraged to try it out. Now, what they find is, if it works, the person will do more of it. If it doesn't, the person will stop it very quickly. The key is to give them permission to give it a try in the first place. And if it doesn't work out, just ask one question. What did we learn from that exercise that we can use to do better next time? Finally, don't forget to express compassion and concern and caring for each person. When people feel that the people that they work with or work for care about them, they are much more happy and positive about their work. And finally, if you have made a mistake, or if you have said something unkind or critical, apologize early and apologize often. Go to the other person and say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. If you take back the destructive criticism sincerely, that person is mollified to a great extent and could be a lifelong friend. Your job is to create an environment where people feel terrific about themselves. So drive out fear, create a high trust environment so that everybody says, this is a great place to work. Now, Craftsman World Services, they are a bunch of 15 people, and they have consistently come as one of the best places to work by Washington Magazine and Washingtonian Business Journal. So, why is it necessary to show you this? The key takeaways are increased motivators, trust, responsibility, care, compassion, concern, and like I said, you need to decrease the demotivators, which are fear and doubt. So, a great place to work does not just happen. If you look around every day, companies and business, your hairdresser, the local grocery, the pharmacist, and this man in this refrigerator, you will find and learn about the timeless vignettes of what is truly a great place to work. Implement them at your workplace, and success in career and life is guaranteed. We started this webinar with a crew on a ship at sea and ended with a man sleeping in a refrigerator via a company in Washington calling themselves Glass something. So it shows you that what they all have in common is they're all great places to work. It doesn't matter if there are 2 people, a crew on a ship, 10 people in a wealth management company, or a guy selling Coca-Cola bottles. Thank you.
Now it's time for question and answer session. We will pose some questions towards our speakers. So here is the first question asked by one of our attendees. Is there any practice one can do to improve memory? I think Narayanan, would you like to answer? Narayanan?
Yeah, sorry, Manali, I missed that question. So can you repeat that again?
Sure, Narayanan. Is there any practice one can do to improve memory?
Oh, actually, that's more a skill that you can probably ask a memory expert locally in the place where you live to help you with it. And there are certain techniques which are available even on the internet. You can actually develop some of those skills, and it's a skill like anything. So you just need practice, and you got to say, for example, you just take a bunch of things, assorted kind of things. I, for example, personally, to keep myself engaged, I do Sudoku or crossword. And so when you do crossword, what happens is over a period of time, you remember how this sequence of words play. And yeah, it's just practice. You take a bunch of totally dissimilar things, put it in a box, and you have put them there. And then you go around, and then after 10 minutes, come and make a list of that, say 20 items in that box. And you do that every day, the same items. And within 5 days, you'll find that from, say, you could remember, and you give yourself very short time, say 30 seconds, say a minute to write down that. And next day, you reduce the time to 50, and then 40. So you will find that after 5 days or 6 days, you're able to remember all the 20 in about 30 seconds. Possibly. You can give that a shot.
Okay, thank you, Narayanan. Here's another question for you. Millennials look for instant feedback and recognition. How do you think we can make that possible?
It is a question of communication. We talked about fear, right? So what is it that stops that person to go and ask his immediate reporter, the person is reporting to, and saying, how am I doing my job? In most cases, so you can do it in find the right setting where you can ask this question. Even if you're a little afraid, saying, what will they think and all that, don't worry. You have to be confident. You have not done a crime. So by asking how you're performing. So find a time, find a nice location or a period where there you find that person is in a more relaxed state of mind. Approach and say, actually, ask very casually, how am I doing today? Or how was the last project I did? Well, what is the feedback? People are very, very interested always in giving their opinion about other people. So you have to just find the right method which fits within your organization's culture, and more importantly, the time. Find the right time or the right environment to ask that question. And first of all, overcome that fear. Be confident when you ask. It is after all you're asking about something which can help the organization. So because if you perform better, the organization will do better.
Okay, thank you, Narayanan. Here's one more for you. Can setting up a tool or automation leads to building a great place to work for employees?
See, automation, like we showed through the presentation, everything has a place in an organization, whether it's an automation or work improvement or, like somebody said, payment, being paid salaries in time, or having a small meeting place where people can stretch out for 5 minutes in a day. These are all motivators in some way or form or shape. So when you say automation, it's not just imposing automation. Are they tried to, are they in sync with the culture of the organization? And how are they trained to use that particular software, for example? And when I read automation as something like technology, is that correct? Is my understanding correct? Is it?
Yes, Narayan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's mainly how you relate to that. If you approach that automation with fear, then you will be overwhelmed by it. You need to be it's after all something to help you there, or being introduced to help your work process. So the more you get familiar with it, and today you've got all these other things that you can use to get familiar with any kind of software. So it is not, you should not approach it with fear.
Okay. One more question is there for you, Narayanan. Can you give examples of some great places to work from your experience?
Right. Great place to work doesn't happen by itself. So when a person goes there, and okay, when the best example is, if suppose you are going into a new company, or even if in your own workplace, how does that change happen? Is when you come to work tomorrow, for example, look in that mirror and say, the workplace I am going to be in today, I am going to make it a great place to work. So if you start with yourself, and then it moves on to your person in the next cubicle or the next room, it is almost like a viral infection, and a positive viral infection. And very soon you will find that you don't need to look anywhere else. your own place of work has become a great place to work. And that will be your contribution to the place and you will feel happy no matter wherever you go in life. And so, to come back to your question, great place to work is not only the organization's responsibility. It is everybody who's there needs to create that place of work. So you go back to the guy that's sleeping in the refrigerator. Anybody looking at him will say, "What is this?" But he has found his own peace, and he has created a place where he feels happy about. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Narayanan. I think we'll bind up the session here, and whatever questions we are receiving now, we will send them through the mail.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you, Narayanan. Thank you, Yoga, for sharing your experiences with us. And
those of you who are still online, if you could please take this key takeaways and note them down in your notebook. And if there is any way that we can help you in the future, my contact details are down below, and please feel to contact us, and we'll be happy to help you along your career. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, all the attendees. If you have any other questions, please feel free to send the email at info@synergita.com, and we will send you the recorded version of this webinar. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, attendees. Thank you, speakers.